Good morning. Welcome to Cup
Good
of Joe.
morning.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hello.
Who are you? You're not Anna.
Nope, I'm Melinda. I'm the sometimes Melinda. That's me. Woohoo!
Well, we're glad to have you, Melinda. And this is Cup of Joe July version. We've
Yes.
got vacationing people and moving people. So you
Mhm.
guys got me and Melinda, or Melinda and I, sorry, proper etiquette. So welcome, Melinda, and we're
Thank
glad you're
you.
here.
I'm glad I'm here too.
So there's a lot that's been happening since we last had Cup of Joe live.
A lot.
I know. So I think the biggest one is that Rudy Giuliani got his law license suspended in New York and in
And
DC.
DC. Yay!
And that Alan Weissenberg or Weisselberg or whatever from the former guy's organization got arrested.
Yes. I think the cards are about to fall.
I hope
Hopefully.
so.
Me too.
It
Me too.
I don't ever like seeing the downfall of somebody, especially, somebody who's been in public figure for a while, but sometimes you just gotta let it happen. Gotta let those big banks fail and those big people fail.
That's right. And I think it's hilarious that Trump is trying to sue all these private organizations. What a waste of time and money. It's just a waste.
No, it's a perfect thing for him because he's raising money off of it.
Yes. And he needs all the help he can get because he better be saving his money to fight his own personal lawsuits because they're coming.
Well, and the other big news is we had Hurricane Elsa was a direct hit to the Tampa Bay area. And I know
Well,
there
it
were,
kind of skirted by a little bit here. It kind of went west of us. So we just had we had one band of rain about 2:30 in the morning that I heard, and that
yeah.
was it. I told you it wasn't going to be that bad. You were freaking out because the Dunkin' Donuts and the Starbucks were closed, and I'm like, it's just going to be a little rain.
But when Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks are closed on the same day for weather, you know that they're thinking it's going to be bad.
Well, there was the possibility, but I knew because you know why? I watched my guy that says rule number 7, Dennis Phillips, and he is the best meteorologist because he keeps everybody calm and he doesn't let you freak out until he says rule number 7. Now you can freak out. So
Absolutely. We're going to have to get those shirts and do them as giveaways on our show, I think.
yes, maybe we can have Dennis Phillips as a guest. That would be awesome.
That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a lot of interesting shows, and we've got my watch is telling me it's time to take a deep breath. I hate my watch. So we've done a lot of interesting shows, and I think with this all of this voter suppression and stuff that's going on in Texas and the Arizona fiasco, I
And the
think
Supreme Court.
I think our
Very
guest
disappointing.
is like the perfect guest to have today.
I'm so excited.
I know there's a lot of I guess you could call it BS. Although I did hear somebody on CNN use the word a-hole, completely say it out regarding the former guy, and it was John McCain's chief of staff.
Oh, I used to say ass hat, but that's me.
But you've got Governor Abbott who can't keep the people hot. They can't keep the people cold. They can't figure out what's going on. But let's
And let's
suppress
talk
those
about
votes.
that. Yeah, and let's talk about that because you know why? Because they didn't want to be regulated. Sometimes you need to have a little bit of regulation in your government. This is what government is about. And if they had done that, then they wouldn't be having these problems right now.
Yep. Well, and the other interesting thing is, speaking of government regulations, our fearless former governor, the Voldemort, the baldy one.
Turtle. He looks like a turtle.
He does. He was the governor who signed legislation that, I guess in 2008, we passed a law that said if your condo is built, I guess, 10 years old, it's supposed to go through REACH certification and inspection every 5 years. So the law was in place from 2008 till 2010 when Governor Scott and the Republican legislature pulled the law.
Yeah.
So they said you don't have to be inspected for 40 years instead of 5. So unfortunately, that's what's been happening down here in Florida. But our guest today is
a tragedy
awesome.
has ensued. That's horrible.
Oh, I know.
You need a little bit of government regulation. A little bit. I mean, it helps people. It's for people, everyone's own good.
Yep. But some government regulation we don't need. We don't need government regulation telling us we can't give water to people standing in line who are voting.
We don't need government regulation saying that we cannot teach the truth in our schools. Oh, my son's going to be a history teacher, so that hits very hard home to me because that's just ridiculous. You can't whitewash history. That's ridiculous.
You can't. So our guest today is with a group called Black Voters Matter, and his name is Jamil Davis, and we're going to bring him in a sec. And hey, Jamil, welcome.
Hey, Jamil, welcome.
Hey, everybody. How are y'all today?
We're good. Thank you.
So happy to have you on our show today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
So, I'm actually in the midst of vacation. But we already scheduled this, and I was like, I had a little hiccup the last time. So, I actually live in the part of Florida that's not on Eastern time. We're on Central time, and I didn't realize that. So
we didn't realize it as well. So no worries. So okay, we're glad to have you now, and
yes.
Thank you for coming on the show, even though you're on vacation. I hope you're having a good vacation.
I am actually. It's a perfect way to decompress after an extensive tour that we did as Black Voters Matter did as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
We did a 10 city 9-day tour. This year is the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Rides, the original Freedom Rides that happened in 1961. And so we took the same journey, but in reverse, because it started in DC and ended in Jackson. So we started in Jackson with actually a soft start in New Orleans. Because if anybody knows the history of the Freedom Rides was originally supposed to end in New Orleans. And so we started in New Orleans the day before Juneteenth, and then the official start was Juneteenth in Jackson, Mississippi. And we ended on the 26th of June in Washington, D.C. Literally, fun fact about the D.C. rally. So we were at the National Mall, but the way that we were positioned at the National Mall, we literally were right across the street from the U.S. Capitol. So we always like to say that we did the rally at the Capitol. And ours was a lot peaceful than the last thing that happened in January, but I digress. So.
Well, we hear that you were in Texas, Austin, Texas, yesterday or the day before for the start of the legislative session. What's going on down in Texas?
Yeah, so shout out to the great people in Texas, our wonderful partners in Texas, and shout out to our awesome Texas State Coordinator, Deanna LaFay. We were in Texas as an organization. Black Voters Matter was in Texas for the start of their special session around their omnibus voter suppression bill, making it to where it limits how you can do mail-in ballots. It would essentially eliminate souls to the polls in the state of Texas, just doing a lot of the same measures that Georgia did with their voter suppression bill, and of course our wonderful, lovely state of Florida did with ours. So yeah, it's still a process that they have going on in Texas right now. And for more updates about what's going on in Texas in regards to their special session and the work that we as Black Voters Matter are doing around it, you can go to our website, which is blackvotersmatterfund.org, or you can follow us everywhere on social media at Black Voters MTR, Black Voters MTR.
That's great. And we'll make sure, I know that Aaron's on top of it, getting ready to put some links in the comments for you. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. So one of the things that just baffles me is that we're having to relitigate and re-legislate the Civil Rights Voting Acts again. And I know that at the federal level, we have HR 1, which is the For the People Act, and HR 4, which is the John Lewis Voting Act. Why is it that we're having to do this foolishness again?
So there was a very, very awesome, and I use that word, I use that word very loosely, very, very awesome case that happened, Shelby versus Holder, and Shelby County, I think it was Shelby County, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, but
Mhm.
Shelby County, they decided that there were certain measures within the Voting Rights Act that they didn't have to apply. They didn't have to apply when it came to their voting. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed. And a lot of the measures within the original Voting Rights Act that put limitations on states states' rights when it came to voting was gutted. And so when those were gutted, we started seeing a lot of state legislatures across the country, primarily a lot of them within the South, start doing these voting measures that put us 10 steps back.
I
And
can't
it,
believe it.
and it put us within areas where we started being we started having limits placed on us as far as how we could vote, when we could vote, the measures that we took as far as voting. And so things started to get a little extreme around 2018 because you have to recognize, so in the state of Georgia, you have Brian Kemp against one of the most incredible organizers and political officials around, Stacey Abrams. And then in Florida, you had Ron DeSantis against another incredible organizer, Mayor of Tallahassee, former Mayor of Tallahassee, just all around great guy, Andrew Gillum. And so we were looking at these situations like, oh man, like we could really do this. Like this could really be a thing where the two most I guess you would consider them regressive, conservative minded states in the country could have black mayors. I mean black governors. That's what I mean, black governors. And so the problem with Georgia is that Brian Kemp, while running for governor, was also the Secretary of State. So
Just a little conflict of interest there, right?
essentially, you're the referee. You're the referee creating the rules for a game that you're essentially the player in. And so they start instilling measures that started striking thousands and thousands of people off of the rolls. And so people were actually going to the polls on election day, finding out, hey, I'm actually not on the roll. And so they were being given provisional ballots. These provisional ballots, weren't getting counted, this, that, and the third, or they were getting counted too late. And then in Florida, we essentially were starting to have some of the same measures as well. But then after the election was over with, ballots were mysteriously popping up at elementary and high schools down in Broward County. Things were being, it was a mess. And so um, then 2020 rolls around. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and you're still telling people, hey, we really honestly don't care that that we're in the middle of a pandemic. We kind of really need you to go out and vote. And but at the same token, mail-in mail-in voting and mail-in voting and early voting was being used in abundance in a lot of states across the country.
Me too.
Yep.
I have physical ailments, so there's no way I'm disabled, so I can't go stand in line. I mean, there's no way I can stand in a long line like that. I need to be able to vote by mail, and I don't mind dropping it off. My voting process was very easy this year, and
Mhm.
it was great. I did early voting, and it took me about 5 minutes. So I really hope that they continue that. And we had no voter fraud. So why
Right.
are they messing with something that doesn't need to be fixed? I know why, because they want to cheat and win. But that's
Mhm.
the only way they can do it. So But anyway,
And,
I
and,
guess.
no, I mean, and that's essentially what was happening around states across the country. We were having literally point 0.000000001. See how many fingers I get before I actually
Yep,
get the one. That's literally like the actual physical number that they give is literally like 120, 122 people in the country committed some form of voter fraud in the 2020 election. So let's just throw those 122 votes out.
exactly. Still
You
wouldn't make any difference.
you still get the same results
Yes.
that we got on the federal and state level. Like our own governor here in the state of Florida stated that this was like one of the most flawless elections that we
Mhm.
had in voting history in a while.
Exactly.
Um,
And we came in early too. We weren't the last one. Like, I mean, it was a
like we
really big
normally
good job.
are.
Yes. And that's for Republicans running it. And I am saying our guy in Hillsborough County, I can't think of his name right now, but I thought he did a very good job, and it was easy and you could look at it on your phone and track it and see if it was counted or not. So I was very happy with that.
I want to give a lot of major love and appreciation and shout outs, all the things, all the colloquialisms to all of our partners in the state of Florida that partner with Black Voters Matter when it comes as it pertained to the 2020 campaign. We had very great and still do very great relationships with all of the supervisor of elections and
Hmm.
all of the counties that we organize in. Um, we sat down, had awesome conversations with them. Hey, so we're just trying to ensure that there's a fair and balanced vote for all people in this county and in the states, blah blah. And it went flawless. Like it went very flawless. And so then we get to the beginning of 2000, beginning of this year, and we get the legislative session. And one of the bills that they decide to introduce during legislative session is this wonderful bill known as SB 90. And SB 90 is limiting one how we can maneuver as far as organizers and organizations in the state as it pertains to voting rights, as it pertains to people actually physically voting, but also as it pertains to mail-in voting. And these limitations aren't needed. Like a lot of us organizers that organize around voting rights and voting rights, voter suppression, and voting empowerment. We've all stated that this is literally a solution looking for a problem
Yep.
that doesn't exist.
Exactly. I
Like
agree 100%.
these issues don't exist. People harvesting ballots, harvesting mail-in ballots. This doesn't exist in this. This doesn't exist in the state of Florida. People trying to utilize food, snacks, water, etc., to influence how people vote. This doesn't like. But here we are. Here we are in 2021, still trying to put limitations on how people can vote in this state and in this country. And if I'm being really honest and really honest and really sincere, this is really honestly a method that we're going to use to ensure that black and brown people in the state of Florida and in the United States of America have very limited ways and very limited resources on how they can vote and when they can vote and what measures they can use to vote, because we turned out in great numbers. Young people turned down in young people turned out in huge numbers
Mhm.
than they did in 2016. I think 2016 it was like 28 to 32%. 2020 it was 52%.
And I've got younger,
So,
like my boys are in their 20s, their early 20s, and I don't see that changing. This generation was raised, at least I raised my kids. They
mhm.
went with me on um we did stuff for Obama back in the day. They were out there with their signs with me. I've raised them to be politically active and to care about society. And I think a lot of us have done that. And I mean, I'm really proud of my kids, but they're friends as well. It's not just my kids, it's their friends. They are very smart and savvy, and they don't fall for the BS.
You know, we as Black Voters Matter, as well as other organizations in the state of Florida, such as Dream Defenders, Florida Immigration Coalition Votes, um, Florida Rising, State Voices, America Votes, organizations of that statute. We took the time last year to educate people on the fact that voting is a powerful tool that can be used in order to gain power for people in underdeveloped urban communities within
Mhm.
the state. And we had to put it in that context, because you can't so in 2021 you can't keep going into these communities and you can't keep telling people you can't keep so I'll just use Black communities because here we go. um you can't keep going into Black communities and you can't keep telling people that you need to vote because your ancestors and your forefathers died for your right to vote. Cool, wonderful. They died. I go and vote, and stuff still doesn't change. So now you have to start educating people that there are a lot of things that you're essentially complaining and airing your grievances to the wrong people. So the way that police treat you in your city, you can't air that grievance to your local congressman, your state, I mean, not your state senator, but your US senator or the president. That's a grievance that you air to your local city council person and your mayor, because your mayor essentially controls the city budget, and those some of the funds from the police budget can be reallocated to other areas of city government that will benefit and enrich your community, and your city council person can then write off on that by simply voting in favor of it when the budget meetings happen every year. So you gotta educate people on what particular issues are you having in your community, and who is it that you're supposed to air those grievances to when it comes to those issues. And if those people don't want to listen to you, those people don't feel like that particular issue matter, cool, find somebody in your community that has a political savvy mind and understands and recognizes what it is that we need to do in order to get the power for our communities, and vote them in. As simple as that.
Mhm.
In my previous life, one of the things that I did was recruit. I'm a nurse, and so I recruited nurses during the healthcare crisis to run. And I think it's important to get people from the community to run for office for that community, because I might represent a community that's 60% white and 40% Black, but I'm not Black. And I'm not going to be attuned to issues that are important to that community. And so I think the other thing we need to do is recruit members from underserved communities and get them to run. The big problem is money.
Well,
We've got Vern Buchanan who can raise $2 million by just walking down the street. And to get somebody to run against him is pretty hard.
and he's not even in Hillsborough County. This is total gerrymandering, by the way. He doesn't even represent the people that live in Hillsborough County. He's only concerned about Sarasota.
And, he's got rural counties. He's got Ruskin. He's got Riverview. He's got Waimama, which are, majority communities of color. And he's not even caring.
Mm-hmm.
So to put in context, as far as how we operate as an organization, Black Voters Matter. So I've already said this to you all offline, but I'll say it again for the people that are watching. Black Voters Matter. We organize in 12 states across the country. Of course, Florida being one of them. I have the esteemed honor and pleasure of serving as the Florida State Coordinator for Black Voters Matter. So essentially now my reach, thank God, is the entire state. But when I'm on the ground, I mainly focus on the Panhandle, because we actually have a regional organizer for Central Florida. Her name is Jasmine Fernandez. She's awesome. She's incredible. So since you all are down in Tampa, Hillsborough County area, Jasmine would essentially be the person that would be handling all of the issues there, and she does a really, really awesome, great job.
Excellent.
And so what we do is we go on the ground, we find the grassroots organizers, grassroots organizations that are already essentially doing the work on the ground, but there are those particular grassroots organizations that don't necessarily have the resources to properly do the work. They don't have access to van. They don't have certain monetary resources to carry out certain campaigns that they want to do in their communities. They need a broader social media access platform, what have you. And so we as Black Voters Matter, we're like, cool, we can help with all of that.
Well, we need some help down here, because I'll tell you, we did car parades through Waimama and through Ruskin, and the people that came out and were just, it was like they were shocked that there were Democrats, like they couldn't believe it. And they were so thrilled. And we had every flag, rainbow flags, Black Lives Matter flags, Puerto Rican flag, any kind of flag we could find, we had it. And and they were just, you could just see it on their face. And they were so excited. One of the things that we need to do as Democrats, I feel, is try to find precinct leaders in those areas that will work with us. And that has been something that we have been challenged with, to find Democrats willing to do the work to be in that precinct to help us really reach those people. And I do believe that we reached a lot of people. Don't you, Sheila?
I do.
I think we literally had people register to vote while we were helping them register to vote. Our friend Anna was actually doing that work, and Scott Heitenstein, who was running for office. And so it was eye-opening, and it really educated me, because I grew up very poor, but I live now in Fishhawk, so I'm kind of in the fishbowl bubble. So it was really good for me to get out and see what I needed to see and see where the work needed to be done.
So the other dynamic thing about Black Voters Matter is one of our core values is Black Voters Matter everywhere. So a lot of times your nationally based or nationally recognized organizations, so we'll use Florida as an example. The majority of the time, your nationally based or nationally recognized organizations, they'll only focus on Tampa or St. Pete. They'll only focus on Orlando. They'll only focus on Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Miami. They don't go into Ruskin County. They won't go there because they don't see the
they
numbers.
Don't see it.
The numbers are showing them they don't see the value. Exactly.
Yes.
The numbers are showing that the value isn't there. Whereas
we're definitely going to have to reach out to Jasmine and start working with her.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Because I think that we could really change our little section. Look, we went from red to light pink this voting cycle where we live in this little area, and we want to go at purple this time. We'd love to turn it blue. Because I'm sick of being represented. Like Mike Beltran is the one that drew the map. You should see the map. It is so so gerrymandered, it is not even funny, and it's ridiculous. And I'm sick of it. I want
You
them
said
out of office.
you said Mike Beltran. That was that was enough for me. That literally was
Yep.
enough for me.
Yep.
No, I mean, and that's one of the things that we do focus and recognize is that we start looking at the population. We look at the population numbers more than the voting numbers, and we realize, oh, okay, so this particular county is heavily Black populated, but aren't the voting numbers showing this? And then so there's already people on the ground floor that's doing the work. All we do is just throw them some more resources to find that out. And then once they find that out, then we go in and we start building a campaign, utilizing the partners, start building a campaign around increasing voter turnout, but more than anything, increasing voter engagement and civic engagement. Because the thing is, if all we cared about is votes, then this wouldn't say Black voters matter. It would say Black votes matter. And see, that's the problem. The problem is that most organizations and most political parties only care about, they want to take the R out of this. Because that's all they care about. Once we got your vote, that's it. That's good. We'll see you in the next 2 to 4 years. Whereas with us, it's cool. So now you're actually engaged in the process outside of just simply walking into the booth, casting that vote. Now you're engaged in the process of wanting to go to your city council meetings and see, okay, so what exactly are they doing with this money? Because our parks in our communities and our community centers are still dilapidated. They're still broken down. So what are they actually doing with this money that should be coming to our communities? So now you're engaged in that. Now you're engaged in the process, which we will be pretty soon. I think like early or mid fall. Now you're engaged in the process of wondering, okay, so how are they going to redistrict? How are they going to redistrict these maps? And how are these particular maps, whether on the state level or on the federal level, how is it going to benefit the power that we're trying to obtain as Black people in our communities in Florida? Because we need fair districts. This whole gerrymandering situation that they've been doing for the last 10 to 14 years is ridiculous. It's awful.
Wrong. It's horrible.
Exactly.
Because it's like your vote doesn't even, it's frustrating because they fix it so that even though your area might be voting a certain way, because it's encompassed in a larger area, it's not making the impact that it should. And that is not right.
And so somebody said that they draw the districts for the votes they want. And that's how it's done.
Exactly. We have to put ourselves in a position to where we place the power of who gets elected back into the voters' hands, instead of the elected officials getting to choose who votes for them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jamal, we could talk to you all day. So what we'll do is we will reach out to Jasmine. I'll catch you offline and get her contact information, and we'll have her on as well, so she can tell us what the focus is for this area. Because we have a lot of people who are interested in working on so many different levels. We have people who are interested in voter registration, who are interested in community engagement. And so part of our cup of joe is to find groups for everyone that wants to participate.
Yes.
So if you want to do, environmental, we have an environmental group. So we try to help the communities that need the help with volunteers that want to volunteer. So we're excited to work with you all, and hopefully we can have maybe a pinkish Florida this year.
Yes, absolutely. I would be so thrilled about that. And not just on the federal level, but also on the state level, state and local level as well.
Yes.
Well, if you can get rid of that congressman that you have up there, the crazy one who will go unnamed,
that guy.
Who needs
We
to
got
go
to
to
find
jail?
somebody who can run against him. So I think that's the hard part. But yeah, if you can get rid of him, we would be really happy.
I would be ecstatic as well, because Mr.
Whatever.
He who shall be unnamed is just yeah.
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 Jamil, thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you're doing, and your group is amazing.
Yes.
And we will be certain to send volunteers your way to give you guys a hand.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much as well. This has been very, very dynamic experience, and hopefully it leads to more work and more wins in the future.
Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Well, I think we have our work cut out. We have to reach out to Jasmine.
We do, but I think that's exciting. I think when you find the people that can really help your community, that's exciting to me. And I love this show so much, and I love being part of it, because I do feel like we start to connect the dots and we're starting to really build that community and figure out, what do we need to do? How do we need to motivate people? Who do we need to reach? Who can we get to run? So I think it's very exciting. So I'm happy.
Me too. And we've got our guests for next week and the week after. One of the things we're focusing on is going back to work and school after being out for almost a year, or actually over a year. So we have Laura Hottenstein. You've heard her husband's name mentioned before. She is a counselor for the Hillsborough County school system, and she's going to talk about preparing your offspring to go back to school, because a lot of them haven't been in school for the last year. And we have mask mandates. We don't have mask mandates. We have whatever. So that'll be good. And then the week after, we have a very special guest. I will have to tell you that she is my cousin. Her name is Lainey Nee, and she works for the Animal Rescue League of Boston, which I know we're not in Boston, but she is a behavioral counselor for pets, and she's going to talk to us about preparing your fur babies for you to leave the house and go back to work after being home for a year. Especially those who adopted fur babies during the lockdown. They don't know what your going back to work is going to look like. So I'm pretty excited. And then Melinda, who's the last guest in July?
Bianca Goldsby, and I'm very excited to have her. She's a teacher, she's an activist, and she's gonna, what I want to talk to her about is everything that happened in Hillsborough County, because she's got receipts. Like, where did the money go? What happened to the budget? Why do we have to fire 100 teachers? So I'm very, very excited to have her on the show on the 30th.
Well, that's great. Melinda, I'm so happy that you're my co-host for the rest of the month.
Thank you. Me too. But I miss Anna.
I know we miss Anna, but she'll be back in August. Oh, and the other good news is in August, for those of you who want to know why we're not on at night, we'll be flipping the script, and we'll be starting on Mondays in August at 7 p.m. So a little nighttime cup of joe. We'll have to do a decaf version.
Yes, and we need to get, Val Demings needs to come on, Charlie Chris needs to come on, Nikki Freed needs to come on. We got a lot of work to do. Well, I'm the booking agent. I've really got a lot of work to do. So I better get to getting.
And poor Mike Beltran, he's been waiting in the background to come back on, and I don't see him. He must have logged off. Poor Mike Beltran. He never gets on.
I don't know where he is. He just disappears on us every time, doesn't he?
We're going to have to work harder.
Yes, we are.
Well, Melinda, thank you. Aaron, thank you. We will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers to Ruth.
Yes, to Ruth. I'm toasting her with my water.
I've got you.